recording as you asked. There you go. Beautiful. Okay, I'm just going to share my screen with you now. So let me know if you can all see that coming up on the screen there. You're good? Thumbs up. Excellent. So I'm Jen. I know I've met a couple of you in the breakout rooms, tried to keep it minimal so I wasn't repeating myself, but essentially my passion is burnout, not experiencing it, but actually helping people overcome it so that they can thrive and get back to their best selves. And I've come from a background in working in mental health predominantly, and I've also spent some time working for the emergency services. And after working through COVID and working in a mental health hospital during that period of time, I burnt out pretty hard. And I've had some kind of cycles of burnout through my history. So that's kind of where my passion comes from. So now I have transitioned into being a career wellbeing coach. And what that essentially means is I try and help individuals, teams, and leaders to overcome burnout and create better, healthier, happier working environments. Although burnout is very much to do with careers, it can also happen in your personal life, but a lot of what I do is focused at basically changing the world that we work in. So, as I said, I spent a lot of time working in some quite intense environments, working as an emergency responder, doing 999 calls, a radio dispatcher, working in, inpatient therapeutic environments with people suffering psychosis, quite intense environments. And also with the intensity of the environment was a very big lack of care towards employee well-being that I experienced. So it's hardly surprising that I burnt out quite a few times. Now, some people ask me, what is burnout? Sometimes they get it confused with stress. Now, stress and burnout have lots and lots in common. They certainly are linked. And in fact, stress is often the precursor to burnout. So you think about high periods of stress, we tend to go through, and then we can have a period of recovery, and then we move on, and then we might have another high period of stress. However, if we have too many periods of high stress, or we don't come out of that period of high stress, that's when it can come to burnout. So if you think of stress being too much of stuff, like an elastic band, you're pulling too much going on. And then eventually that stress will make it snap. That's when burnout comes in. So you can see some here on the screen. I've given some typical symptoms of burnout. It can be helpful to be able to identify these, but you can also see that some of these symptoms are quite similar to stress. What I try and help people do is recognize as early as possible the symptoms of their own burnout, and it can be different from all of us, but these tend to be some of the common ones. And the idea is that the earlier that you can see these signs, the earlier that you can intervene to stop them going to full-blown burnout. Because the longer period of time we spend in burnout, the harder it is to then overcome it. The trouble is, though, is burnout doesn't just look like these things that we see on the screen. Burnout can also look like this. So on the screen are some pictures of me, not just when I had a killer jawline, but also periods of my life where I was desperately unhappy, stressed, depressed, anxious, and just in a big state of mental and emotional turmoil. Would you think that to look at me, though, in those pictures? Not necessarily. And the thing is, not only may you not recognize burnout in someone else, you may not recognize it in yourself. And that's often the trouble, is you don't realize that you're burnt out until you're already there. Because it's not something that just happens overnight. It's not something where you wake up and you're feeling a bit stressed or wound up tight. It's something that builds over time. And if you're not careful, it will hit you like a freight train when it gets there, trust me. So again, I've grown up and I think this is probably quite similar to a lot of the clients I've worked with, and it may be sort of like a relational point for you, is I often find that people who are prone to burnout are often the kind of people who are high achievers, perfectionists, the kind of people that are kind of told or grown up with the jam in their donut that says that you just get on with things. Mental health wasn't really a thing when I was younger. Mental health wasn't a thing, when I spoke about it to my parents. They didn't really understand, what I was going through. And a lot of the narrative I had from my mum was just like, welcome to being an adult, Jen. You just get on with it. And that's the trouble, is that kind of mentality where you just have to push through and get on and just strap your boots up and whatever you're feeling, put it to the side and crack on with it. That's the kind of thing that can often end up to a point where you're burnt out. And the hard truth of it is burnout will get you eventually. And this is a picture here where it's actually hard for me to look at this picture, actually, because I feel like I look really soulless behind the eyes. It was a really, really difficult time for me. And I hit burnout and I hit the floor, literally. I got through the door after a day where I'd managed to drag myself through, and I fell to the floor. And I wasn't upset, I wasn't crying, I wasn't depressed, I wasn't thinking about anything. It's almost like I just shut down entirely. And I must have laid there for 2-3 hours, not moving, still in my coat, not thinking, not doing anything. It's almost like I just had a complete factory reset. And that's when I realized something had to change. So the process was long, and I've had many sort of slip ups in my time since that moment where I hit the floor, where I've fallen back into patterns of burnout. But I have learned so much along the way, and that's now knowledge that I love to share to help other people either recover from burnout or prevent it, ideally, in the first place. And one of the biggest shifts I had was being able just to listen to myself, listen to my needs, listen to my desires, listen to my heart, my head, whatever it is that you believe in, but actually listening to yourself, because we spend so much time listening to how we should live our lives and the things that we should be doing and the things that our parents tell us that we should be doing, that jam in our donut, that we often don't listen to ourselves and what we actually need. So some of the things I learned, that, passion and joy and pleasure and play are the things that we miss out on in times where we are experiencing burnout, because we're all busy people, we're living adult lives, we've got lots of responsibilities. And for adults, pleasure, play, joy, laughter, those kind of things are often at the bottom of the list because we've got so much to do. But actually over time, if we neglect that, that's one of the biggest precursors to burnout. So that's something I talk a lot about as well with my clients, is bringing more joy, passion, and play back into your lives. And then, of course, taking that beyond the individual, one thing that I've also learned is that, I love individual coaching. I love helping people on a one-to-one journey get back to what brings them more joy. But the problem is so much bigger than the individual. There's only so much you can do to fix yourself if the environment that you're in isn't conducive to growth. If you think about how you put seeds into a dark room to germinate them, they start to grow, and that's great, but it's not the environment that they can thrive in long term. So it's about helping people match what they're doing as an individual to help with their growth and their, getting over their burnout and their resilience, and matching that with the environment that they're working in. Because it's such a big problem. You can see by some of the stats that I've put on the slide here for you, it is £1 billion problem for the UK. And I'm sure the stats for the US and other parts of the world are equally as shocking. So that's why also I want to get a shift into helping employers understand the role that they play in supporting people to live happier, healthier working lives as well. So just before I finish, I know this is a very short, so I don't want to keep you too long, but I just wanted to do like a mini burnout check-in with you all today. And I just want you to have a moment just to reflect on these questions. So ask yourself these 3 questions. When was the last time I truly felt rested? Now, this is a funny one for me, actually, because I kind of think, have I felt rested since I was a child? I don't think so. But it's easier to think of times where we feel tired. So you might feel tired in a day. You might feel tired in a week. You're like, oh, I've had a busy week. I feel a bit tired. It's easier to think of how tired we are a lot of the time. But actually, when you sit and think about when was the last time I actually feel rested, if it was more than a couple of months ago, this might be signs that something needs to change. If it's more than 6 months ago, it's likely that you're potentially already on an early road to burnout. So that's something to be wary of. And is there something that you're pushing through? Again, I spoke about that kind of perfectionism, that kind of just pushing through and getting on with things. Is there something that you're just pushing through rather than addressing? Are you in a period of stress at the moment, or have you got a deadline or something going on that you kind of just feel like you're in a bit of a hamster wheel and just trying to push through instead of actually dealing with? And then the powerful one, a question I often ask my clients is, if I keep going at this pace, where will I be in 6 months' time? And sometimes that can be quite a powerful one, just to think, actually, maybe I need to shift something. So before I leave you, I just want you to commit to doing something for yourself today. It's my challenge to you. So whatever it is before the end of the day, and I know, Gary, you're not sure whether you're going to go to bed or watch the game, but even if it's something small, even if it is just getting yourself an early night, if it's rather than watching the telly, you're going to commit to doing something that is purely for you, purely for your passion, your joy, what makes your heart sing. Commit to doing one thing before the end of the day that is purely for you, because we don't spend enough time doing that. And then from there, if you can, repeat it tomorrow, repeat it the next day and the next day. And that will be your first step to tackling stress and burnout. Obviously, I've put my details there, so if anyone wants to connect, feel free. If anyone has any questions, please do ask, or you can reach out to me privately. And I can't wait to share more about what I've learned and in the community and on these sessions. So that's me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jen. Does anybody have the first question for Jen? Because I thought that was lovely.
Oh, thank you.
Who's got the first question for Jen? I'll ask a question then, Jen.
Go for it.
I don't think I ever rest. I'm like Tigger. Do I have a problem?
Well, it depends. Having a rest and feeling rested are two different things. If you're doing things that are actually bringing you joy, that is, feeding into your goals, that is feeding into your energy in a positive way, then I don't see anything wrong with that. It's when you spend too much time giving to anything and everything else in a way that is detrimental to you, that is not filling your cup, that's when it becomes problematic.
Yeah, that's not me. I meant when
advice, Jen. Oh, sorry, Gary.
Go on, go on, Miles.
What advice would you give to somebody who, say, they understand that they've got a little bit of burnout and they're, getting stressed out about stuff, but whatever they're doing in the day to day is that intensive where they can't stop what they're doing. They've just got to like keep going because they might have certain commitments to work and stuff like that. Like, what advice would you give someone who just feels like they can't stop, because if they do stop, then they're not going to be, doing whatever commitments they've got?
Yeah, that's a really, really great question. And that was exactly me. I can't stop. I can't not go to work. People are relying on me, especially when I'm working in 24/7 life and death services. Well, I have to show up. Like, people's lives depend on me. But the one thing I always say, and sometimes this can be difficult for people to hear, is it will make you stop eventually if you don't make that time. There's that saying, isn't there? If you don't make time for your wellness, you have to make time for your illness, and it will come. And I understand, like, you can be on that treadmill, you can be on that, I've got this responsibilities, I'm a parent, I'm a partner, I've got a business, I'm, this, that, and the other. We can all find things that keep us busy during the day, but even if it is starting with just 15 minutes, that's for you, that can make the difference and start shifting things in your mind.
Who's got the last question?
I noticed I'm definitely a bit burnt out at the moment because of a weekend when I quite like playing PlayStation and stuff like that. But like I'll get to like a Friday night, and if my wife goes to bed early, a couple of years back I'd be like, I'll jump on the PlayStation. But like probably the last couple of years, it's like gets Friday night and we go, oh, it's 9 o'clock. A couple of hours on the PlayStation and just go, I'll just find some junk to watch because I just literally haven't even got the energy that I can't be bothered doing something that I actually quite like, because it's like actually takes a bit of effort to do something. Whereas you're just like, you ever just watch that garbage on Netflix? I don't actually have to do anything. And I was like thinking about it the weekend. I actually forced myself to play on the PlayStation, but like they updated the game for so it's all like kidified now. So I was like, oh, this is junk now. I don't even like this game. This is rubbish. So it didn't work. But I was like, well, I need to find a different game to try and play. But it was like it's just the effort to start doing something that you quite like. Sometimes just seems too much, you just go, I'll just end up watching junk on the, or notice you end up like scrolling on your phone for ages on a
Yeah,
Saturday afternoon. You're like, I could have read
yeah.
like couple of chapters of a book, but I just couldn't be bothered starting it, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely, it rings so true. It's so common. It's like, because it does anything other than just like mindlessly slobbing on the sofa and watching television. Like it even that in itself can be hard to manage if you're feeling a certain way. But yeah, absolutely, like finding that effort to do something you even once used to bring you so much joy can just feel like another burden to your list when your energy levels are depleted. And the thing is, and what I always try and remind people of is like, you have to choose your hard. Staying as you are, existing in that kind of bubble of like, oh, I want to do all these things, but I don't have the energy and I just feel like drained, and that's hard. But so is doing something you enjoy when you're feeling like that, when you don't have the energy to motivate yourself to get up and do it, but you have the chance to actually bring something nice that you enjoy to your life. So it's about choosing that hard in that moment. I know that's not easier said than done. But yeah, just helping people to make those choices and think, actually, this will probably make me feel better than slobbing on the telly, in front of the telly, which we all need from time to time as well.